trying to get an airstrike over on that opposite side. Copy.
What's up everyone, Tom from the Airsoft headquarters here, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to do a comparison video between LPVO's low power variable optics and flip to side or flip to center magnifiers. So what I have in front of me is I have an AIM Sports 1.5 to 4 times magnifier. And I've had this in my collection for quite a little bit. What I recently got turned on to was the Unity Skyscrape Riser, which I have the Lancer Tactical T1 type of optic mounted onto. And at SHOT Show, the last SHOT Show we went to, 2022 SHOT Show, at the PTS booth, there was like these flip to centers, like where the magnifier was just under the lip of the optic here. I'm like, oh, this is smooth, this is good, this is cool. And recently I bought for my real firearm some SIG magnifiers. And then I was like, you know what? There's a sale running on SIG magnifiers. There's a sale running on the Unity flip to center for those SIG magnifiers. It was like a sign from God. We just have to do the video. So I am using a real Unity flip to center mount paired with a real SIG Romeo 3 times. So there is like a little bit of a price discrepancy between the AIM Sports, LPVO and the actual flip to center, which is like the real stuff. But we're gonna do a couple of comparisons. We're gonna do actual like performance of flipping them from a low power to a higher power, or flipping that magnifier up. And then we're gonna do some comparisons as far as, from a neutral position up into a firing stance, and then just do a whole bunch of cool shit, right? We're gonna see which ones kind of feel the best, and we're gonna like give you guys comparison, pros and cons of each one. So let's just get into it. Everything's looking good. And there we are, all out of BBs on the gas blowback 416. Put it on safe. Ow. Bridge of my nose. Pros and cons very quickly of the LPVO compared to a flip to side magnifier. Pros of the AIM Sports LPVO, the low power variable optic. In my personal experience, this was actually a little bit better compared to the flip to side magnifier as far as bringing it up to a natural point of aim and shooting position. It just brought it up to the correct anchor every single time. And I had the least amount of work as far as getting my eyesight into the actual tube itself. So it actually did extremely well as far as having that natural position for me. The downside is that if there was ever a scenario where I needed to come off from the side here and come back to zero, or move my head even a little bit, due to the length of the tube here, I could no longer see that sight picture at all. It was completely obscured by the interior of the glass here, because you've got all this tube in order to try to like get perfectly down. So it's a little bit hard as far as having that left to right adjustment while you're trying to aim down sights. That's the only weird issues with this one in particular. What I probably should have done is I probably, in hindsight, should have put in a throw lever on here. Just to make it a little bit easier as far as getting to that magnification that I needed at the time. While you can sit here and you can make those adjustments, it's a very hard and odd angle in order to bring your hand off the trigger and try to make those adjustments, especially when looking through that tube and everything's kind of moving around like I just brought up. And otherwise, it did very well for what it would be considered like a mid-tier airsoft based optic. It actually had very clear glass. I did like the fact that the aperture as well, when compared to like low or other mid-tier type of zoom-based optics, the aperture or like the focus of the crosshairs to whatever object you're trying to aim at, a lot of times there's a lot of blur, obscurity between those crosshairs and whatever target you are trying to aim at. So this one in particular did a very good job at keeping those crosshairs very bright and very sharp, essentially. So you knew exactly where those mil dots were. Some of the issues I had brought up as far as you gotta keep your eyesight perfectly in line with the optic, otherwise it gets obscured. It does enlarge the overall profile of the rifle significantly, right? This is not a big rifle setup, but it looks significantly larger when you put a much larger optic onto the very top of it. This one I like the best. This one is a little bit more of like the gung-ho door kicker type of setup where you have your no magnification and then you have the option of magnification if you so choose. Now with the Romeo 3x that I have here, I found it like super beneficial in using Airsoft, just having that 3x magnification. That 4 to kind of 6x magnification or 20x magnification in some cases is just way too much. A lot of cases with those higher magnification, at 9x, I've seen BBs that get caught by the wind and just whoo, way outside of the limits of your scope. So in order to like get better track where that BB flight path is, that kind of 2 to 4 times window is kind of most beneficial. Now, what I like about this setup in particular is that with PTS, or with Unity specifically, PTS is just remanufacturing these for Airsoft specs. With Unity, they have the high rise magnifier. And so that makes it an already natural shooting position for me in particular. It just keeps I do a little bit more of a cheek weld instead of a proper chin weld down here. And this just makes everything a little bit more comfortable, especially when doing the airsofting, the door kicker interior stuff here for long hours at a time. So it just keeps everything as far as your neck and your shoulders a little bit more upright, and that will save your shoulders in the long run, I've noticed. But also, because the riser itself is so tall, the magnifier arm that in most cases would flip farther out to the side of the rifle, further accenting that profile, which we want to keep minimalist, actually tucks it below that field of view of the actual optic itself. So the riser kind of like half protects the magnifier itself. I've heard like over the years, plenty of guys have had their magnifiers off to the side, and BBs will still come in and they'll shoot the glass out. And there's a couple of like, because that was one of the only options on the market, you really didn't have any other option as far as a flip magnifier. So you kind of just stuck with the reality of it's gonna get shot out, or there's a high chance of it getting shot out. But the riser here is actually going to protect that magnifier pretty well against those BB impacts. Now there is a chance that a BB could come in from the side here, do a little bit of damage, but it's a real optic. Again, I got it on a sale, so this one was $180 for the magnifier. And I can use the warranty still, so if it does get shot out, which more than likely it'll just deflect the BB and not actually break anything. If it does break, then I can just exchange it for a different one or have some type of warranty work done. And then the Unity riser here, this is the real Unity riser, and this one was more expensive than the magnifier here. This guy cost me $250, so in total, a $400 setup ballpark, which is not like ideal for airsofters. But again, it was one of these things where I saw it, I felt it, I was messing with it at SHOT Show, and if you go back and watch the SHOT Show 2022 PTS booth, you can see me like finger fucking the shit out of whatever magnifier they had set up there. It was really smooth. I liked it a lot. All right, so for this, we're going to I'm gonna start with a neutral position, and then I'm gonna pop up with the magnification on, and I'm gonna try to aim for the smaller side-to-side targets, not the headshots. And I'm gonna see like what the timing is when trying to transition between these guys, while also coming from neutral and then up. from 10 feet away, I might add. Let's do that. All right, I'm gonna start low. Ooh. Point of aim and point of impact, very different. Ooh. Okay. Very low. Ooh. Ow! That bounced and hit my belly. Ow. All right, I think I've got that down pretty pat. Bam, 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 and bam. I mean, not too crazy. All of the first low ones are me putting the dot onto the center and then having my impacts be much lower. So over time, I just compensated by putting my dot right about there on all of them. Overall, not too bad. It's more natural to come up into your shooting position, especially if you've been shooting for a long time. What about coming from a position where the gun normally would not be? So with the stock and gun completely removed from my anchor position, we'll pop up and try to do that. Because trying to do the snap is going to bring my anchor point on the stock to a different position on my shoulder every time, which is going to mess up my alignment with the magnification. Science, physics stuff, let's just get into it. So from here, up. That one was super wonky. Okay, overall, I think I'm getting the hang of it. Still like, oop, I nicked his ear here. Gave him a little bit of an ear piercing during one of those shots on this guy here. I mean, but overall, like, pretty well concentrated. I did get one really high one, and then, you know, that's, all right, next we're going to do 20 foot. I'm going to double tap the head, and then I'll quick transition. While I'm transitioning, I'll flip my magnification up, and then try to hit the gong twice. I'll take 2 shots of the gong. So we're gonna be focused on short distance, point of aim, point of impact, and then quick transition to farther targets. Not ideal, but it's gonna look cool. Ah! 1 out of 2. All right, one more time. One out of 2. Once more. Two out of 2, I'm getting good with this. The intention primarily is using this setup for meal sims or other outdoor events where the intention is more so outmaneuvering the other team than actually out shooting the other team, right? Getting yourself into a position where you have that edge, that tactical advantage, proves to be, you know, one of those key things for those larger meal sims. So the fact that I can have the opportunity to bring that magnifier up, look at guys that are in the distance, maybe even up and down stairwells or hanging out inside of open windows where you're not supposed to be, and I can identify that guy's on the other team. What we need to do is we need to go 2 buildings down the block and scoot over so that we're out of their eyesight. You know, tactical stuff like that, that will further bring your small squad further advantages. You know, that's one of the things I like about this. Let's do some more testing with the LPVO. So now we're going to do the testing with the LPVO at the 10 foot with 3 times magnification. I'm going to try to do 1, 2, 3, 4, the smaller profile targets. This one's gonna be a little bit weird because that longer length, I need to be exactly perfect and onto it, but I think I can get it done. We're gonna keep the camera just a little bit farther away just so we don't get any like BB bounces. That one I completely lost. Okay, so that wasn't too bad. There was like a little bit more issues as far as like height difference. I had a little less control there, just like how I came up with it, but no matter, we're gonna move on. So the left target is what I used as far as the 20 foot to 100 foot as far as doing that double tap of the head and then transitioning out to the 100. So what I will do with this one is I'm gonna use the right target so we can compare like the headshot grouping to each other. Make sense? And then I'm gonna do as low magnification on the headshot and then flip it to the 3 in order to do the 100. Like proper 3 times to 3 times magnification. Make sense? Let's get into it. Ooh. Those were like just missing, but I could see where they went. Once more. There, I think we got the 2 shots. So this target specifically, I wanted to point out with this, collaboration as far as the T1 on the high riser compared with the flip to center magnifier. At that 20 foot, as far as snapping up with the no magnification, got us like a little bit more vertical of a accuracy size. We had the 2 shots here when trying to do our cool guy shooting on the smaller targets, so that is no factor at all. Everything on the inside of the neck here is factored by that 20 to 100 quick flip. So overall pretty good staying within that smaller profile. And again, it's a very tiny profile and with no magnification did really good at 20 feet. Not that this is a accuracy comparison, but I do think that we had more consistency. That has to do with the platform itself being a battery powered system. So we don't have that weird gassing issue. But there was more consistency with that 100 foot grouping compared to this guy, which was what we used this guy with, which is the LPVO. Now, again, very tight grouping, a little bit more tight compared to the other target. This is a factor that needs to be accounted for because this is from the smaller target, so that ear piercing, not part of this initial shoot. This one over here that does bleed into the smaller target, I do believe was part of this grouping size here. And that, again, it's like, this one I trusted more my natural point of aim, point of impact type of situation where I wasn't using the crosshairs on the actual target itself in order to identify, hey, BB shot is gonna go here. I kind of more trusted my natural point of aim instincts where if I just hold the rifle here and I know that the target is within the actual silhouette of the glass, it's gonna hit the target no matter what. This is a very small profile target and it doesn't do it really good justice when comparing it to like on the airsoft field, but we can still see like here 20 feet, still really good grouping. Now we did have a loss of consistency, and that's more with the platform itself with those gassing issues with gas blowbacks that they normally occur or have at those greater distances of 100 plus feet. We're gonna have some weird flyaways. So it was good to be able to flip to that 3 times and like confirm that my BBs are flying away in a pattern that I wouldn't expect or I otherwise don't want them to. So I can visually watch them go just over the target and I can try to very quick correct that course by just bringing my crosshairs down a little bit on the target. Overall, I think these did pretty good. The LPVO, which has a little bit deeper of an acceptance of where you can put your eye. So coming up here, I have the entire interior window mostly available. I can come in just a little bit farther and make that window pop out just a little bit more. So I get a little bit more acceptance as far as that side to side profile. So I can like see a little bit more in total. That's one of the really good things about this is that if I wanted to shoot from here, I still can. That's still an acceptable amount of window that I can see. I could come in, but I really don't need to. One of the cons about this is that if you're someone that likes to have their stock way the crap out, you're now half the window available to you as far as being able to aim down sights, just due to that aperture not being super acceptable at farther distances. And that's something that is prevalent, or it's physically there, whether you're on the 1.5 times or you're on the 4 times magnification. So no matter what, you still have to deal with a window of like distance away from the optic that you are able to optimally see, compared to this guy without the flip to side magnifier, which there's no magnification. So I could sit here, I could come way out here, or I could come way out here. Now from here, this is a little bit harder to see where that green dot is, but I can still see the green dot, and it's still prevalent there. So that's an advantage with that T1 type of optic. Now, in order to use the magnifier, I'm not seeing nothing back here. So in the chances, the few times where I will need to use the magnifier, let's see, here's unusable. Here I have half the window, and then here I have everything. So this is a really shallow depth of being able to, see everything in the magnifier. So those are some things that you need to consider. Are you more, are you okay with having that wider field of view away from the optic, but you always have to deal with that distance no matter what? Or would you rather have that magnification where on the chances where you are using that magnifier, you now have a shallower window or a space away from the magnifier in order to get that optimal window of magnification? So those are some of the pros and cons. My preference is this guy for this setup. I still really do like my LPVO. However, this is not something that I would use on my door kicker setup. But I just have it on this setup just so I can have like more familiar controls and ergonomics in order to do as like unbiased of a shooting comparison between both of them. So that's what I have for you guys. If you guys do have any further questions, go ahead and put them down into the comment section below. I'll do my best to answer them, but we're all done here. So you guys take care, stay safe, stay positive, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care. That one I completely lost.